Alright, fuck the antics, we're getting straight into it. Ninja Kamui. Ninja Kamui was necessarily one of those shows that show a lot of promise, especially in the beginning, but sort of missed the mark on some degrees, as well as hits the mark in other degrees, which is kind of weird to say. But if anything, I want to get into the old classic in this channel, which is I go into the negatives first, and then I go into the positives later on the video. With me just honestly getting the biggest elephant of the room, let me just push this guy out, right? It's just the fighting. Now, necessarily, it's a positive and a negative with the fighting, because at first, it was straight up 2D animation. It looked fucking amazingly beautiful with the choreography as well as all of the ninja abilities we see throughout the show, especially in the beginning of the show. But the issue then, because we hard cut to this 3DS animation, and it's just a drastically different change, that you can't necessarily blame anyone for being extremely upset at the show or wanting to drop the show if they see like this drastic of a change, especially when in the first half you had something that was completely different as well as something that was really good. And even so, I still think that 3D animation is still good, or as well as I still enjoy the fighting, but it's still such a drastic change and different, as well as some of it does look inherently not so great or even bad to a certain degree, with it just being something that you can't just inherently let slide. It's just such a big elephant in the room, it has to be addressed. But it also feeling like necessarily it's cutting corners a little bit, like they went really hard with the animation for certain fights, and then some of them they had to like pull back, so they had to switch the animation style and just fully switch how it's done. Also, extremely quick side note, I think the 3D animation is a lot better more or less in the beginning when it sort of gets introduced, and then by the time we get to the end of things, it gets pretty bad. Even the quality there feels like it went down a notch. Then there's also another negative I would have to talk about. It's just like some of the story, right? I think some of the story points, like it cuts corners a little too much in certain regards with either certain characters. Like for example, with this one character, how he says, "Oh, I thought you died." And he's like, "Oh, a cat has 9 lives," right? And that's sort of just like a comment that's like goes out of the window. And I'm all for in mysteries and putting things together, but it feels like just like an offhanded comment. It feels a bit lazy to a certain degree. Then there's also the character of Zai. I feel like Zai's a bit undercooked. I do like what they have going for him, right? In a sense of him having this code, as well as him being siding with all of the ninjas, because it's all he inherently knows. He doesn't know anything else. He doesn't know the empathy, and has a lack of it from his past of not having anyone else by his side and just being sort of in a slave trade-esque situation, and the only people that were there to save him were the ninjas, so he inherently has a debt to them. So when he inherently sees this foreign concept of empathy from his 2 best friends that he decided to make a bond and a pact with, it feels like a betrayal to him when they leave the village. But the part where it feels like it gets undercooked is like, I need more. I want more context. I want more information when it comes to Zai specifically. And by the time we sort of get to the end of things, when it mainly gets to the end of the story itself, it feels like we're rushing through a lot of things, whether it just be Zai or the main character or the main villain itself. It feels like we're hitting the fucking jets by the time we get to the end of the show, and it's sort of a little bit alarming and concerning. Alright, but let me get into a lot more of the more positive side of things, right? So the more positive side of things I want to talk about is just the main character himself, Higan, because Higan goes through the ever so classic story when it comes to rage characters, right, where they commit like a whole bunch of atrocities or a whole bunch of murders or whatever the case may be, and they sort of get that happiness, right? They sort of find that happiness that's inside them or that's around them. They latch onto it, and they might potentially either lose it or they find another way or will to live in the end of things. For me, sort of liking him slowly opening up, as well as slowly trying to like laugh or smile, or the case may be, with some of these characters, finding a newfound happiness in all the sorrow that he's had in his life. Then there's also just a lot of other characters that I just necessarily like, right? Like for example, Emma and Mike. I'll just start off with Emma first, where Emma just sort of getting the big reveal and twist that she's actually been a ninja the whole time, and as well as her being really close with the wife itself, Mari. And I really do enjoy the little arc they have that we see back in the past, where she sort of gets a realization of like other people necessarily caring for her, as well as her necessarily loving herself at the end of the day, with the wife Mari sort of just being this mother, or at least sister to her to a certain degree, really caring for her, sort of the opposite of what all ninjas do. As well as just the relationship that Mike and Emma sort of really had, right, where Mike and Emma had a sort of daddy-daughter relationship when it came to both of them, because one, Emma didn't really necessarily have a family and sort of was abandoned, so like when Mike is there and sort of like a partner to her, it fills her with happiness and hope. And then it's sort of the same with Mike. It's sort of a vice versa effect, because Mike lost his daughter as well as his wife. Well, one losing his daughter from like an accident, but his wife just leaving because she couldn't handle the situation anymore. So they both just feed off of each other and sort of have a really good dynamic relationship whenever we do see them. And the last character I probably said I really liked was Yamajin, right? Because with Yamajin, he sort of understood and had his own convictions and morals from all the the experience that he's had around the world and seeing all the pain and sorrow, even from when we get a hint of it early on when he finds Zai in that slave trade captivity. They paint a nice picture showing you why he thinks this way. With me also liking just the build unnecessarily of what happened to the clan and why did some people get separated from the clan or split 50-50 or wanted to leave the clan or even just die for the different moral and compass that switch over in the clan itself. With this point sort of being a positive and negative because I really do love the build up, but the issue is just the execution is a little off-putting to me, especially how we go about things. Like the build up all the way up until we get to the mechs, it makes sense, right? But then we get the mech itself and it's just like it's so extremely off-putting. It's like I'd rather maybe not have it be a part of the show, if anything. And shit, who doesn't love the concept of a ninja, right? Of having void of emotions, it just won't be like a ruthless killer, but then finding happiness and wanting to have a full-on change in his life. And so that happens a few times, especially it's done really well actually in Hell's Paradise. I really do love Hell's Paradise. It was something that was in this earlier this year where we had this sort of the same thing play out, but obviously way completely different by the time we get to things. Just the beginning is a little bit the same. But with me even loving more of the characters there, as well as the plot is really good, as well as all of the villains that's in Hell's Paradise. But this is not a video about Hell's Paradise, my bad. But like I said before, I think the show is conceptually well done. It's just like some of the execution points are just not it when it comes to certain degrees, whether like I said the characters, the plot, or just the animation itself. Some of the same things I just said they excel at the same time, which is a bit of a weird thing to say, but it's true. And also, by the way, this is also Adult Swim sort of come back, I guess, with another animation. I sort of want them to continue doing it because I know for a fact they have the potential to be even better and get more better stuff out there, and hopefully just learn from some of these mistakes. But other than that, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.